Good afternoon. No, it's still morning here at the offices at Grace Church of Harmony. It's Tuesday, right before Thanksgiving. I love Thanksgiving. It might be a little bit different this year, a little bit fewer numbers, but turkey's turkey and loved ones are loved ones. Hey, I was looking at John 14 passage, and what struck me is the way Jesus really affirms to us that, yeah, we don't see him. He's up in heaven, but he doesn't forget about us for a split second. He begins, right before he's crucified. He says to his disciples, "Let not your hearts be troubled. Believe in God. Believe also in me." He knows his concern for them. He cares very much about how they're feeling. He cares about how you're feeling and how you're dealing with the fact that he's not physically with you. And he says to his disciples, who are so frightened, "In my Father's house are many rooms. If it weren't so, I would have told you. And I go to prepare a place for you." He's leaving them, but he wants to make sure that they understand that there's nothing that's going to change between him and them. He has loved them throughout the last 3 years, and he will love them even when he's no longer physically present. And he makes sure they understand that, yes, he's going to be in heaven. Yes, he's going to be surrounded by glory, but it will not be out of sight, out of mind. He will not forget them for even a nanosecond, not even for a moment. And neither does he forget you for even a twinkling of an eye. He knows why he came to earth to save you, and he knows why he's in heaven to prepare a place for you. You are on his mind all the time. He has an actual place reserved for you, and he assures us here. He says, if it were not so, I would have told you so. He says, I would have told you if I were bluffing. No, I mean this. I'm going to come back for you. I mean, every day Jesus can see the actual location, the place where one day you will be with him in glory. It's that certain to him. And in the next verse, Jesus goes on and says, if I go and prepare a place for you, if I'm going to be about my Father's business and do that, I will come again and take you to myself, that where I am, you may be also. Notice, he takes it upon himself. He says, I will come for you personally. Like an ancient Middle Eastern wedding where all of a sudden when the groom says it's time, he would come and fetch his bride, whatever she was doing, and they'd have a procession through the streets and take her to her new home. Jesus says, you're too important to me. I'm not going to just send a third-string messenger to recruit you. I am going to come for you myself. And again, think how Jesus is surrounded by inexpressible glory and breathtaking beauty. The place where anybody would want to be in the presence of his Father in heaven. But yet he never forgets he's on an errand. He's doing his Father's business. He's preparing a place for you that's perfectly fit for you. We're decorated with you in mind, where you can be with him, where you can join him. And when Jesus was on earth, he never forgot his Father's business for a second. Even when he was 12 years old in the temple, remember that, where mom and dad lost track of him, thought he was with cousin Rudy, and then they realize Jesus isn't there, and they go back. And they find Jesus in the temple discussing these things with the rabbis. And Mary, being a good mom, is upset and says, Jesus, why didn't you tell us we were back here? Didn't you care? And he looked at her and said, Mom, certainly you realize I must have been about my Father's business. That's what he did when he was 12 years old. He did it his whole life. And just because he's in heaven now doesn't mean he ever loses track of his Father's business. And the business is saving you and bringing you to glory. He won't forget his business. And think about this. In the Old Testament, the high priest of Israel, whenever he would put his high priestly garments on, he'd walk into the tabernacle or later into the temple. He would have this breastplate on with 12 stones on it that would represent the 12 tribes of Israel, all of God's ethnic chosen people. So when the high priest was in there, God would say upon the priest, the 12 tribes, God would remember his people. In the same way, Jesus is in glory right now, but you are indelibly marked upon him. He knows the wounds in his wrists and his side and his feet, that was all for you. So he cannot possibly forget you. His love for you will never diminish, and he will get you to be with him in glory forever. Now, have a happy Thanksgiving.